So you clicked on this video because you want the easiest, safest, and simplest method to learn your backflip. Well, in my opinion, that is the Macacao method. You're gonna be doing a Macacao and transforming it into a backflip over the course of this video. This is gonna be specifically for a standing back tuck, but you can always use this to get a round off back tuck or, a scoot back tuck or whatever other setup you wanna do. But this is gonna be a standing back tuck for this video. It also doesn't have to be a back tuck, but that's generally how I'm going to teach it. You can also do back flips open. A back flip is a, family tree of different motions of doing back flips, if that makes sense. So a back flip can be a giant category of back tuck, whip, X out, flash kick, tons of other different kinds of back flips, but this is going to be generally a back tuck. And if you already have a back handspring, then awesome. You're already kind of like a step ahead. In my opinion, literally any able-bodied person who has the strength and the flexibility to do a good jumping Macacao should be able to do a back tuck. But obviously make sure you are warmed up and you're doing this safely. For the main example set that I'm showing you in this video, I actually kind of got just like fed up and filmed it because I had a specific way I wanted to do backflips, but it kind of fell apart and I was just like, I don't really care. And a lot of you have asked for backflip. And then the straw that broke the camel's back was glory to Arstoska, I think is how you pronounce it, but either way, Razbi, who just became one of my patrons, coincidentally, or I guess he chose to, but wasn't at the time. He commented about backflip and was saying that he didn't have a lot of time, and I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna go outside and film it. So most of the video, the examples of me actually doing this is just after it snowed and all the snow melted and it's like completely wet grass and mud and it's extremely hard to do all this on this. So if I can do it here, then hopefully you can find a better surface and you should be able to do it on whatever surface you choose. But all of that to say, this should work on spring floor, carpet, some house tiles, the beach, good grass, muddy grass, everything except for maybe like hot lava. But either way, let's get your backflip using the Macacao method. So I'm gonna breeze over Macacao and back handspring in this tutorial, but I have tutorials for both of those. Those will be in the description down below if you wanna watch those or you need more information about Macacao or back handspring. So warm up your Macacaos. You can do them completely like crossing and not very good right now. You don't have to do anything crazy, just squat down, touch that left hand behind you if you turn to your left and look over behind you, do your cartwheel motion, and then just focus on getting your chest up on this one. Make sure that you are jumping relatively hard off of both legs, getting a lot of power backwards, stepping down with that right leg, and then chest up tall, just so that you can always get used to getting your chest up because that's gonna help you later for landing light. Once you can do your Macacao like that, the only difference is you're going to try and land on your left leg. That is left leg for me. If you twist to your right, that's right leg. But instead of kicking over with your right leg, if you're doing the cartwheel method, then you are going to kind of come down like a master scoot. So if for some reason you have a master scoot and you don't have like a Macacao where you can land on your left leg because you are habitually not doing it like that, then you can think of it as like a two-legged master scoot, and hopefully that'll help you to understand how to do this. The reason we're landing on our left leg is because if you land on your left leg, then you can't really twist because you have to make yourself kind of go over the top more because of just the way your hips work. So work on landing on that left leg and try to get it a little more over the top. At first you can go really sideways, but make sure you're opening your shoulders and you reach back really far behind you and you come over with that left leg, and then again, chest up at the end. Once you can land on your left leg doing a Macacao and you can get your chest up, then it's time to kind of push off like a round off. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna look back, jump off both legs as hard as you can, make sure you're really pushing with that left arm, and then you're looking back behind you and you wait a long time to put that right hand down. And then when you do put that right hand down, you push off really hard with both of your hands and really spring off the ground. A lot of people will push and then kind of pull their hands up away from the ground, but you don't want to do that. You want to only push and then keep pushing through and following through with that motion as you bring your legs down, because that is going to help you engage your core and it's going to help you get your chest up at the end. Your goal is to land on 2 feet at the same time, but even if right now you're kind of just doing like that left-footed landing, but you're pushing off and really springing, then you're doing the right thing and you're in the right direction. Keep doing it until you can really make it feel like you're doing a round off. You squat, touch, push off, and then land with your chest up, landing on both feet at the same time. And then we're ready to move on. So this is where things start to get scary for a lot of students, so make sure that you are really ready for this. But what you're gonna do is you are going to squat and then kind of like stay off of your hand and try to jump right before your hand touches. You don't have to do it completely standing up or anything right now, but you're trying to squat down and like kind of mimic that you're about to touch your hand down, but then you sort of jump and open your chest a little bit before you actually put your hand down. So it should be jump before your hands go down, whereas all the other times before we were going down, touch the hand, then jump. This is the part that might take the longest for a lot of people. A lot of times when you start jumping, people want to twist a lot, so make sure that you are not swinging both arms at the same time for this one. You want to squat, reach with your left arm or your leading arm depending on your side, and then jump in the air and really arch your back, and then kind of bring that right arm over. You can bring the right arm over the top like at the same time a little bit, but you don't want to think of them like connected yet. That's kind of like progressing closer to back handspring. So just try to reach and then swing that right arm over as you jump, if that makes sense. Just drill this and drill this and drill this until it becomes comfortable. You really don't want to be twisting. You got to make sure you are landing on both feet at the same time. A good test for yourself to make sure that you are inverting, if you're not recording yourself, is to see if you can do the same thing, but still land only on that left foot. If you can drop down, jump before the hand touches, hit the hands, and then push off and land on the left foot, then that means you are not twisting and you can move on to the next one. So for the next one, all you're doing is kind of just progressing this even more and trying to get yourself into a back handspring. You want to squat, you want to start to fall backwards, and then you swing both arms to the side kind of simultaneous and really arch your back. Keep your eyes on the ground the whole time, and then push off like a round off and land with your chest up. This can start to be really, really sideways. A lot of my students go really sideways on this. If you are doing that, then it just means you're probably not extending back far enough. So really try to reach as far back as you can with this progression. Again, keeping your eyes on the ground right now so that you feel safe. If you are looking straight up, which is the next step, it's gonna be really freaky right now. So just get really comfortable with kind of like looking behind you and then swinging those arms behind you, arching your back as hard as you can, pushing off as hard as you can, and then pushing off like a round off, standing up. But slowly work your way until you're doing a back handspring or really close. You don't have to do a back handspring perfectly. If it's a little like scuffed, but you have power, as in like you're at like a 45-degree angle or something, and you still have like a lot of power in those hands when you push off, you're like standing up and almost even falling backwards or something, then you're ready to move on to the next part. But if you wanna sit here until you get back handspring, you can watch my back handspring tutorial again, like I was saying in the description, and like really see my in-depth thoughts about it and help you get closer to that before we move on. But it's completely your decision. Once you're getting close to doing a back handspring, then what you're gonna do is you're gonna watch your own hands as they go over the top. If you can do that and then hit your hands on the ground with a lot of power, then you're either doing a back handspring or you're getting really close to a back handspring, so you should probably move on now. I have a good back handspring, so I'm just gonna go with back handspring. But like I said, even if it's just a little bit off, that's okay. As long as you're not like completely sideways on like a B kick angle or something when you're doing your backflip or back handspring motion. From here, you're just gonna jump harder and harder and harder and harder. The jump is so important to this. I had like a little friendly debate about this with one of my other videos, but I was kind of just playing devil's advocate in that video and was like, okay, is tuck more important? Is jump more important? Really, like they're all important. Like jumping is important, tuck is important, and arm swing is extremely important. Arm swing is probably more important than the other ones, but just go watch that video and comment down below your thoughts if you want to. But it's really about doing a combination of all of them. You're gonna sit, start to fall backwards, then you're gonna swing and jump, and you're gonna try and jump a little more than you were on your back handspring or back handspring adjacent move from earlier. You wanna jump as hard as you can. You wanna kind of jump a little earlier than you would for your back handspring so that you're not going backwards with your momentum. You're kind of going up and backwards at like a 45-degree angle. But if you swing your arms really hard and you look for the ground and you see the ground, then all you have to do is squeeze your core when you're coming down, still reach for the ground just like you're like trying to do a back handspring or something, but try to almost race your hands to the ground with your feet. So you're trying to pull your feet over before your hands are touching the ground, but this can be super dangerous. So make sure you're always reaching towards the ground. If you pull your hands away and you like start to tuck, but you tuck too early, you're gonna fall on your head. So make sure you wait until you can literally almost see the ground or see the ground before you like tuck and come over with your legs. And even when you do, reach to the ground. Again, this could take months. Don't kid yourself into thinking that you're gonna do this in an afternoon. You might be able to, but just make sure that you know that it's okay if you don't get it in like a one session, okay? Some people will. If they do, then they're super well conditioned, or they have a lot of tricks that are similar to this and they're like, oh, it's not that hard. But you might be different. You know, like some people are really scared to go over their head, and some people are like physically capable of doing it, but just freeze up when they go for it. So just take your time with these progressions, slowly move through it. I mean, do the movement fast, but do 1,000 reps if you need to, okay? It's okay. I'm telling you, you have time, practice it methodically and really master each motion before you move on to the next one. But this is kind of almost like a litmus test. If you keep doing this over and over again, eventually you're gonna reach to the ground and your feet are gonna get there first, and you're gonna be surprised and you're gonna be like, what? Oh, I did it! Oh my gosh, I did it! And you just landed your backflip right there. And then once that happens, it's time to clean it up. So what you wanna do is you wanna stand up a little harder when you swing, so like less on a 45 and just a little more upright, but not too upright, or else you'll like under rotate your flip. You wanna swing, and then you want to tuck a little bit earlier than before. Don't necessarily even tap your legs right now. You can if you want to, but you just want to keep reaching to the ground and making sure you're super comfortable with this motion, but you're really squeezing your abs and kind of bending your knees and tucking everything towards your chest to speed up your rotation. Your swing and your jump initiate your rotation. So even if you did it and never tucked, you would go over, but you might make it to like your stomach or something. But the tuck is what accelerates that, or the leg pull, or whatever you're doing. Like if I'm doing a flash kick, I swing and I set and I have a bunch of rotation and then I kick. In this case, it's gonna be your tuck that pulls you over. When you get really comfortable with this, then go ahead and start trying to tap your knees, but almost think about your knees coming up to your chest before you grab. A good test you can do is go on a bar like this and just see if you can lift your knees up to your chest. This is like a common calisthenics workout. It's something that you guys should all do to condition yourself, because it's really important to have strong abs for tricking in general. But if you can bring your knees all the way up to like, I try to touch them like right here on my biceps or triceps, but even if you don't make it all the way there, you can get them to your chest, then you are ready for a backflip. Just make sure that your head is not going back in between your arms. Make sure that your head stays in between your arms, almost like pulling forward as you pull your core up like that on this exercise, because that's gonna be like a true test, because your arms are up and you're really like feeling that stretch, and then you tuck up into it and it's gonna feel just like that when you do a backflip, except maybe a little more lean back. But if you can do this, you definitely have the strength in the tuck for your backflip. If you feel like you can do it with your legs straight, but you don't quite have the mobility, then what you can do is practice your full squat. What a full squat is just placing your feet on the ground, facing like one direction, but they need to be unified, about shoulder width apart, and then you just squat on down with your feet flat without your heels coming off the ground. That's all a full squat is. There are varying degrees of like how good you can do a full squat, so the more you can get your chest up, the better. But if you don't have the ability, when I started working at the gym, I did not have the ability to full squat. The way I practiced through it was two different ways. I would go on these slanted blocks that we have. You could use like a hill or something, whatever you got, you can use that to squat down on, and then you'll kind of sink into your hips and really feel the stretch in your hips, but you won't have that like intense pain on your shins, because it really takes a lot of shin like flexibility or like even strength, because you're kind of pulling backwards and like flexing your feet back to keep your balance while you do full squat. So this can like really give you the feeling of what it feels like, and you can practice getting your chest up and curling and doing all these kind of things. But this is how tucked you should be in a backflip. Then you can kind of like work yourself closer and closer to flat using different obstacles or like a gradual hill slope or whatever you got. Another way you can do it is like grabbing something and holding on to it as you try to do your full squat. So in my case, I'm doing it with like a metal bar that I have at the gym, but you can use a tree or your mailbox, or like, I don't care, whatever you got that you can just like reach out in front of you and grab and do a full squat. The reason this is helpful is because it keeps your chest up and you don't have to do as much like work core wise, but you can really feel that amount of like tension you have in your shins and work through that slowly. So just hold these positions for like a minute at a time, stand up, shake your legs out, you know, make sure your knees don't get all stiff, and then try again for another minute, like watch some anime on your phone or watch a Zach Ferguson video on your phone while you do this or something. And just make sure that you like spend time in this because it'll help you with your mobility for your tuck. A lot of tucking is mobility too. You may be super strong, but if you don't have the mobility or flexibility to do the motion, your body's just gonna resist it using your ligaments and joints and bones and everything, you know what I'm saying? All of that to say, I think tucking is really important, but it is not necessary. And the way I got my backflip was not remotely like this at all. I'll refer you to an excerpt from my fear video really quick. The way I learned was my brother and my friend Mike spotting me. One night we were out at Mike's house and it was dusk, getting darker as we went, so we kind of had a sense of urgency. I was spotting them in their backflips, and then when it was my turn, I didn't want to do it. I was like, no, it's okay, I'll do it another time. I'm kind of afraid of it, and then they were like, no, you're gonna do it, and they started grabbing me, and I was like, no, so I laid down on the ground. So they started kicking me on the ground until I got up and got spotted for a backflip. Sometimes you need extra motivation because it worked. I got up and I was like, okay, I'll try it out. I knew the steps. We had practiced it a bunch before and I got spotted by them. I swung my arms, I tucked really hard. I did parkour at the time a lot. I jumped around tons, so I was very well conditioned in my legs and my abs. I could do tuck jumps really high, so it was easy for me to actually backflip with a spot. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know how much of this is them. And we did it maybe 4 or 5 times, and then they kind of got bored and were like, okay, whatever. And then I just stood there and just did it again. Was just like, all right, I'm doing it. And I landed. And then they were like, wait, what? So out of the 3 of us, I was the first one to get my backflip, even though I was the one who was scared to do it in the first place and way too scared to even try it. But essentially, I had that feeling of safety and I felt really strong in the motion, and I felt that, yeah, I was doing this for the most part. So, I was spotting the ground and I could see, so I just went for it and tried it out. And I thought, worst case scenario, I'm gonna land on my knees because I know I'm jumping really hard right now. So I landed it, and then they were pissed and I was happy. And then I did it like 70 or 80 times that night, and I just started making fun of them, saying like, haha, I got it, oh, okay, come on guys, it's so easy. And then they were all salty, but they were the ones who made me do the backflip in the first place. So really, thanks guys. But because I did it so many times that night, when I woke up in the morning, I literally couldn't get out of bed because my abs were so sore. But it was so important for me to not lose my backflip because I did not want to go through that process again. I wanted to just have it, and I've never lost it. So yeah, that's how I got my backflip. But just make sure that if you do spot each other, you know how to spot, and you are like really trusting of the people who are doing it, because some people may not be strong enough and some people might not like you that much and just be like, whatever, and just let you fall, okay? So make sure you trust each other if you do spot. I'll do a spotting tutorial at some point, but that's not this tutorial. Once you get really comfortable with tucking and you can really like slap your shins before you land, then what you want to do is you want to kind of spot somewhere different. Most of the time you might have been looking backwards or something. Now it's kind of time to spot at like a 45-degree angle above you. Don't look at the sky, don't look straight ahead. You can look straight ahead, but a lot of times I find with beginners, it helps them under-rotate their flip if they look forward. So I like to look up and at a 45 so that my body kind of remembers, oh, I do have to go up and back and stretch with my arms and my abs before I close it for that power for the backflip. So spot at a 45, swing your arms, look at that thing, and then try to tuck while looking at that thing, because, or whatever you're looking at. I'm looking at the sky in this, but don't look at the sky. I'm looking at the sky because I'm outside. I meant don't look straight up. That's all I meant. Look at something, try to keep your eyes on it, and then try to bring your knees up to like your ears while you're looking at that thing, and then let your head go back. And that's gonna rotate you extremely fast. If you're not used to it, don't hold it the whole time because you might actually over-rotate the first time, especially if you have backflips already using this method. But it is important to learn how to tuck because you're gonna wanna know how to do different variations, and you'll need to tuck for that. And also, sometimes it takes less energy to tuck than to just jump all the way over. So it really just depends on how like my body feels that day, whether like tucking feels easier or just jumping and staying open feels easier. It's good to have a lot of tools in your tool belt when it comes to tricking. And that's really it. Just practice that a bunch and you'll be able to do your backflip hopefully in no time. Either way, let's go over some common mistakes. So the first most common mistake I see with this method is not being able to get past the Macacao because you are twisting too much. Make sure that you are not like just doing this weird thing where you spin and then do a cartwheel. If your Macacao isn't a Macacao, then you're not gonna get the feeling of this, because the way the Macacao works is it kind of pushes your hips up because you're blocking your momentum upwards as you're jumping backwards, and you're using your left arm or whatever arm as a like pole vault almost. It's blocking you up and over, and so then once you get to the top into like a handstand, you have no choice but to come down on the other side. This is how the motion works. If you're twisting, then you're not actually getting that feeling of a backflip or anything, and you're just gonna be turning around the side, and like it's not gonna help you at all. The next common mistake I see is being afraid of this, which isn't necessarily a common mistake, but it is a valid concern. There is no reason to not be afraid of this. If you are afraid of this, then you are alive. I was terrified when I first started learning how to do a backflip. It was the scariest thing ever. Again, I will refer you back to my fear video. You can see that in the description if you want to, but being afraid of this is healthy. You're just gonna have to slowly overcome that using progressions. Just make sure that you don't skip ahead is my only point. If you are like, oh, I think I can do this, and you just chuck a backflip, most likely your body is gonna freeze up in the air and you're gonna do a break fall, or you're gonna fall on your head and you're gonna hurt yourself. You can hurt yourself the first time you do a backflip. Like, you can hurt yourself so bad. So please take your time with this and just be safe, okay? Don't like just try to huck it or go for a back handspring, or, oh, well, I used to be able to do it, so let me just try it really quick. Like, work your way through some progressions and like get over your ego, and then you'll be able to get your backflip. Just make sure that you use that healthy fear and tell your body slowly to get comfortable with it, and then like do your backflip. Another obvious one is not having the leg strength to do this. So you can do a very low backflip, that's totally fine, but you're gonna need to know how to tuck a lot. And if you're using the Macacao method, then it might be really hard to like get that tuck, because in this method, you should be doing a big jump and everything before you even tuck. You should basically see the ground before you even tuck. So if you don't have the leg strength, then you probably don't have the fuel to bring yourself over the top in the first place. So work out your legs, do a lot of squats, and train your Macacaos a bunch, and eventually your body will get used to it as long as you're doing your form properly. Another extremely common mistake I see is not swinging your arms enough. At the gym, I always say you're swinging like a T-Rex, because you swing up like this and your head is like leading you, and there's like no rotation whatsoever. You want to start getting your rotation by swinging your arms, and then you accelerate that rotation by tucking in. I always tell people that you should basically feel a stretch in your shoulders or your armpits before you actually tuck at all. And that stretch and swing of your arms happens at the same time that you jump, or almost simultaneous. The order I always tell my students are sit, swing, jump, tuck, land, in that order, making sure that you keep your eyes open, which leads me to my next common mistake. Closing your eyes. Why are you closing your eyes on this? You're flipping over your head. I know you're scared, but if you're too scared to not keep your eyes open, then you should go to a lower progression, because I see this literally constantly. People will do it and they'll swing, and I'm like, okay, well, when did you see the ground for that timing for the tuck? And they're like, oh no, I didn't see it. So a lot of times it's either fear, or you're trying so hard that you're wincing like this. So if you do that, you can grit. It's whatever. It's good to like use to land your backflip, but like keep your eyes open while you're gritting your teeth and using all that strength, okay? And some people are just terrified of it and just huck it and just pray. They just let Jesus take the wheel and see if he can land the backflip for them. Another common mistake I see is tucking too early. If you tuck too early, then most likely you didn't swing enough, most likely you didn't jump enough, so you're just jumping and essentially doing a tuck jump for this. You should have a tuck jump as your timing for a backflip. When you swing for a backflip, it's sit, swing, jump, and tuck and land. Like, you have to open back up to land, and that's gonna be the same timing as your tuck jump. So that's a good drill that you can use to figure out your timing. If you can swing your arms up, do a tuck jump, grab them, and then land again, then you are probably physically capable of doing a back tuck. But you need to make sure you go through all the motions before you tuck. If you tuck too early, you're probably going to land and kind of bounce back forward, or you're just going to not rotate all the way and land on your stomach or something. This can be very dangerous. However, if you're in a tucked position and you hold that tucked position, you're actually pretty safe when you're landing a backflip, because even if you land on your head and your knees are out by your head, you'll just land on your knees or your feet. free, if that makes sense. So that's why it is really important to learn how to tuck and tuck super tight, but really, like, you shouldn't be tucking that early for this. So make sure you swing your arms, make sure you jump, and then do your tuck. Another common mistake I see is setting with your hips forward too much, or kind of like not understanding where your momentum should go. The sit part is very important because you want your momentum to kind of go backwards a little bit before you swing and jump. I explain this a lot in my back handspring tutorial, so go watch that. But essentially, people will try to think about like swinging their arms super fast and doing everything like, and it can cause people to like really like pelvic thrust forward instead of waiting to sit and swing kind of up and backwards. And that's gonna make you like true gainer or just under rotate and fall on your face when you do this. So make sure you sit back and then pelvic thrust all you want, push your hips forward. I push my hips forward a lot because that opens my body and then allows me to close my body really aggressively, so I rotate fast. But you gotta make sure you do not do it too early or else you're gonna under rotate or true gainer, which, like, if you wanna learn true gainer, then there you go. There's a quick tutorial for you. But yeah, that's it. That's the simplest and easiest and safest way to learn a backflip, in my opinion. If you've done all these progressions and you still can't do it for some reason, then check back next week on this channel because I'm gonna go over a different way that you can learn this that's sort of similar, but kind of feels completely different. And it's kind of interesting because students will either be taught this way or the other way that I'm gonna show you most commonly. There's tons of other ways that will be coming out afterwards that you can learn your backflip, but these are the two main ways. So check back next week or check the description, and if I already made it, then it'll be there or maybe in a card over there. To all of you who came from Seth's channel, thank you so much for subscribing to this channel. I really appreciate you. Thank you for all your kind words. It's really hard for me to get to all the comments. I'm really sorry. It's just I'm editing constantly and I'm a dad and I'm doing a bunch of other million other things right now, including UST. If you guys want one of these shirts, then check out the other link in the description because there's a million links in the description, or you can go to ustricking.com and cop a shirt. We got like 5 left. But I'm glad I've earned your sub and I appreciate you watching. Thank you to my wonderful patrons, Kat and Badir, and now my newest patron, Razbi. Thank you so much for becoming a patron, bro. If you want to support me, please hit the like button. And if you want to support me further, I have a bunch of affiliate links that you can use that are in the description. That will help me out a lot. And if you want to support me even further, you can also become a patron. There's a bunch of different tiers and it helps me to continue making videos for you guys. On that note, this is my first ever monetized video. It feels so great. So thank you all for watching and thank you for helping me get there. I really appreciate it. It was so much work, I'm not gonna lie, a lot more than I thought when I was going into like watching YouTubers. Was like, oh, he just talks to a camera and like throws a video up, and I had no consideration of like the countless hours it takes, or research, or practice, or editing, or anything like that. So for context, it's harder than it looks, but I love it and I'm so thankful to do it. And I'm so thankful that I can now say that my videos are monetized. So I'm an official YouTuber now. But if you want to see more videos from me, or you want to check out other ways you can do backflips or other tutorials progressing towards your backflip, then check out this playlist right here.